Okay, this is the tutorial video for bringing NPCs into the game 7 Days to Die. Probably go over a few other things like animals and whatnot in the meantime. So to get started, basically you have to find a model. There are a number of different ways you can go about that. One of them is to go to Maximo. They have a bunch of pre-made characters, pre-rigged, have materials and textures, and you can import that into your Unity, get that to work in 7 Days to Die. You can also find models on websites like Sketchfab and CG Trader and whatnot, some free models. They come with materials and textures, that's great. If they don't have materials and textures, not so great. They can be rigged or not rigged. If they don't have a rig, you can import them into Maximo here. All you have to do is take the FBX or OBJ and drop it onto the screen here, and it will prompt you to set up the character and it will rig it for you. It doesn't work for every model I've found. Even some FBX and OBJ will not work, but for the most part, I'd say more than 50% of the ones I've tried, it worked. Also, Unity Asset Store is a great place to get models. Sometimes really, really cheap and also free. So lots of resources out there. If you get those, most of the time they will be rigged and have their own materials and textures, so you can put them right into Unity without going through Maximo. Another good thing about Maximo is the NPC tutorial project is set up for Maximo rigs. So if you don't use a Maximo style rig, you either have to edit it in Unity to be similar to a Maximo style rig, or you can strip the rigging from it. That doesn't work for all models either. So, and then you can put in Maximo and Maximo rig it. But anyway, let's carry on here. We're going to use a character called Eve that some of you might be familiar with from, I think, a couple other mod authors have used her. So let's have a look. So any of these characters you use on Maximo are free with credit to the author, obviously. So you can pick any one of them. We used to use Gen 2 process, which used the animations here from Maximo, but we're not going to do that because we already have animations in the NPC mod included. We don't need any animations right now. Okay, so get her ready to bring into Unity. What you have to do is download her and T-pose for Unity. And you'll also have to download an animation to get her textures. Just pick any animation. And the important thing here is with skin, so you get the textures. We're not going to be using that animation, but like I said, it's important to do that so that you get the texture, else should just be a white model. Okay, now we can get out of Maximo. Unity 2020.3.24 F1. What you have to do is you have to download Unity Hub and then get your version of choice installed in there. And then grab the tutorial project by Xyth. And that's what this is right here. Unity's, all the settings in Unity are all set up for you. All the tags are there. Export asset bundles and some nice templates to follow. What I like to do is if I download a character, I like to make a separate folder for the model and textures. Okay, now that we got Eve in Unity, we're going to drag her over to our hierarchy, the T-post, not the animated animation, sorry. You can see she's not textured, so we got to change that. You go to materials. use external materials, apply, and that will bring her texture onto the character. And if there's some normals that aren't mixed up right, you just click apply. Now we got Eve here. Open her all up there. She's got a Maximo rig. That's what it looks like. Exactly like that. Hips, left up leg, left foot, etc. And that complies with the physics body set up in the XML from NPC Mod. And you don't have to mess around with the physics body. If you have another style of character that comes pre-rigged, they may have a bunch of weird bones that you have to rename. I can show you that real quick too. You can see this is not compatible with Maximo rig. So what you'd have to do is you would make a original prefab by dragging this back over into your assets like this. You right click. You just find each of the bones over there. And you can change their names in the windows there. Also, if you have a prefab already made, you can just right click on the prefab. So if you need to change those bone names, you just can click on the prefab, right click on it, and it'll do the same thing. Once you make those changes, you save, and then it will show up here, all the changes you made. So we got our Eve, we got her opened up here. We can see all our Maximo bones, structure. So to get started, I generally rename the character right off the bat, usually something silly. And that way I can just pick out the avatar easily once I export to FBX. So we have to add a few things before we, and change a few things before we export to FBX. So this is like pre-FBX export work. What you have to add is a collider object to the top parent. And an icon tag. And then you adjust the icon tag till it's just above the head centered. Then you want to add footsteps, but we do that to the origin object, but we can't do that because there's no origin object. So we got to create one. Do that, you got to unpack the prefab. You right click on the top parent, unpack. And then you can add an origin object to the hips. As a parent. And then I usually just drag the hips into the game object just to make sure. And any empty objects that you create, you can rename them. Not so for the bone structure. Bone structure has to be edited the way I showed earlier. All right, so we have origin, collider, icon tag, and now we have to add footsteps for them to have footstep sounds in game. And we also want to add our gore children right now before we export to FBX. So you just copy paste or from the Nurse Nancy has all the gore children. Or as I like to do, I just manually edit them in. So Okay, so once you got those in there, you have to put them in the right spot. I don't have a set number for any character. I just sort of eyeball it when I do it. So the knees are roughly centered for lower leg gores. For the upper leg gores, I like them just under the buttocks, centered. Good spot for the head gore is just under the chin, center neck. Around the elbows for the lower arm gores. And around the shoulder armpit area for the upper arm gores. And that's it. So if you've made some kind of, was it prefab, original prefab, where you can delete that at this point? But we haven't had to do that, I think. Just right click on the top parent, export to FBX, and where I have mine show up is in the assets folder. I have a folder for finished models, which is where I'll put this new FBX. So now that she's exported, we have to do some more things. First off, so I don't forget, I usually just change the rig from generic, because it will be generic once you export it, to humanoid. One thing that I didn't do at the start, which I usually do, is I changed the main mesh to LOD0, and this model has only one mesh. So that's going to be real easy. Other ones that have multiple meshes, what you do is just put it on the main body mesh. And that's for enabling fire particles in the game to stick to her. At this point, I would usually as well take care of the materials and textures to make them less intensive on the game. Enable GPU instancing on the material, and then use crunch compression on the texture itself, which was a nice find by Furious Ramsey. Max size with the crunch compression, you can pretty much keep the models textures all at 2048. Some of them come at 4096. Change them to 2048 doesn't really make any difference. So you would just do that for each texture. Okay, now we can go back to the model. We've already changed her to humanoid, enabled read write, I believe. Let's just double check that. Oh yeah, we didn't enable it, so it has to be enabled after changing the main main mesh to LOD0 for the fire particles. Otherwise, in game, you throw a Molotov at her, and she will just look like she's not on fire, but she'll be taking damage like she's on fire. Next step is to give her an animator. Since we're going to be using humanoid animations with root motion, so we got to change a few things here. And then we got to grab the avatar from the FBX that we exported, which is EVsaurus. And then we grab our controller. We want to use the NPC controller if you're going to make NPCs. There's also a zombie controller provided with the tutorial project. Back to the controller, we want the NPC one for her. Now you can see your animations tab is populated there. What I do is a quick test, grab an animation, see what happens. Okay, she's working. We're on the right track. So next off, after we grab our animator, next thing I like to do is the large entity collider, which we added at the start. Add component physics capsule collider. Give a little bit of space at the bottom, about midway through the head. Radius is about 0.15. Xyth said about 0.17 is about the standard. I go over sometimes. It doesn't seem to make a difference for my guys, but I don't know for sure. But this works, so we have to tag it as well. Large entity blocker, and then you also have to double tag this. You have to tag the layer as well. Same thing, large entity blocker. At this point, I'd usually edit the bounds on my character too if it has multiple meshes, like a hair's a different mesh, the body's one mesh, the hands are another mesh. But we don't have to do that because she's only got one mesh, which we renamed LOD0. And then we have to add our Ragdoll. The mash number is to be debated. I've always just put 80 in there since I started. It seems to work for me. And then you have to drag your bones. You have to drag the bones from the hierarchy to their proper place in the ragdoll. So the pelvis is actually hips. Left hips, left knee, left foot is a left up leg, left foot. And then their counterparts on the right side. Your left arm and your left forearm is the elbow. Middle spine here is easy because it's the middle one, spine 1, spine 2. Some models like I have only have spine and spine 1. So those models with only 2 spines, I just take the second spine and put it in there. The head. Now we can create our colliders. Once those are created, we're almost done here. We got the colliders we have to edit. We have the tags to apply. And we have to add the weapons. All right, so let's do our colliders real quick. All those bones that you put into the Ragdoll wizard, you have to edit the colliders. You want the foot colliders a little bit off the ground so they don't collide with the ground, I guess. Sometimes you get surprised and the colliders are actually pretty good. And away from the hands a bit, because you don't want them to collide with their weapons, or when they're shooting something, shoot themselves. You can see all your colliders if you go to the top object here. Hit Gizmos, and you can see all your bounds if you're looking for bounds, or your colliders if you're looking for colliders. She looks pretty good. I mean, you probably won't be able to get a shot through there without hitting her. All right, now for tags. On my other character, I like to just drag the gores in. When we did that pre-export, it actually applies the tag if you have it from another model, so that you don't have to apply the tags after. Before, it would actually strip the tags when you export it to FBX. But for some reason, this go around, tags remain. But none of these are tagged right now, so we have to tag them all the gores, and we have to tag all the bones that have colliders on them. Plus, the origin has to be tagged EBP biped root. Hips and spine, one has to be tagged EBP body. And head has to be tagged EBP head. That's all the collider tags, and now we got to do the gore tags. Okay, sure. Well, Mr. Xyth has some nice scripts for you that you can use that will tag all of that for you. And I believe he has some to add the gores as well to Maximo rig entities. So probably save a lot of time. As far as using that, I haven't used them. So I guess it's just like a menu. You right click, choose your script you want to apply and whatnot. But I think he's going to make a short video on that. Hey, so this is the last leg of the journey here. We have to add weapons. So What we do is they're added to the hands, left and right hands. Nurse Nancy kindly has those weapons ready for us. Want the left weapon? You copy and paste as a child. And then the right weapon and gun joint, which you paste to the right hand. Thank you, Nurse Nancy. All right, so I guess I'll do maybe one weapon from each area. Left weapon has these choices. What I'll do is, let's do the axe. Yeah, axe. The other ones, you want to delete the mesh, but keep the objects for now. That's the way we're going to do it. So you have to enable the mesh first. And then what you'll do is you'll leave the mesh at zeroed, and then you will adjust the empty object parent. Easiest way to do that is to fire up the animation for holding that weapon. Axe hold in this case. We'll play it, pause it, and then we can adjust the weapon. Some of you won't be able to get perfect, but close is good. You can actually check her out in the other animations for the weapon. All right, so once we got our weapon where we want it, then we're going to delete the mesh. And let's pick, let's say, club. Everyone likes clubs. Obviously, if you've done this a number of times and you're confident, you don't have to run through every animation to see what it looks like. I mean, you get a pretty good feel for where the weapon should be. Normally, I go through and delete all these meshes that I'm not using, etc., until all these objects are just by themselves with no meshes. Yeah, I think the AK is a little bit big for Eve here. Let's pick another one. Gun's still a bit large, but hey, you get the hint. There you go. Actually, looks pretty good on her. Then we want to rename our top parent. And she's ready for export. You just build your multi-platform asset bundle, and you can call that resource into the XMLs. And also, when the XMLs are all set up in NPC Mod, ready to go, templates are there. All you have to do is add her resource to the templates to whatever weapons you picked for. Like club, you just use the club XML or whichever gun or whatever. It's already set up. And these are all weapons from in the game. I think that's about it. Right? You got any questions, bud?
You said something about a humanoid model. Is that something, I don't know if I just missed it or?
Any model you use is going to be
humanoid
changed to generic when you export it to FBX. So it doesn't matter what you start with.
Okay.
Whether it's generic setup, humanoid setup. Once you export it to FBX after doing all your edits, it will change it to generic. So you'll have to change it back to humanoid every time. And that goes for zombies too. Like if you're doing zombies, all you do is use the Alpha 20 zombie controller, which is up here.
Okay. Cool.
And you plug that in instead of the NPC controller that I showed. And then you don't add weapons. You can skip that step completely. So
right.
Otherwise, the process is almost the same for zombies.
Neat.
Yeah, I mean it's a whole different process for what we call Gen 2 entities, like animals or non-humanoid looking models, like robots or whatever. Would have to be done in a different manner, but it's actually a lot simpler than doing these. But I'm probably gonna do that in another video. So
what happens if you have 4 spine Is there ever been four spines that you've seen? Or?
It's possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible.
And then you just kind
So you'd
of
have to pick a spine in there somewhere.
Okay.
So you'd have a spine. What are you saying? Like spine 1, spine 2, spine 3, spine 4?
Yeah, I don't know. Just
Spine 1, spine 2, spine. So you just pick 2 would be the middle one. But if you had like 3 spines, spine 1, spine 2, spine 3, then you just pick 1 or 2, whichever one you want, really.
Okay.
I mean, like purchased models. I mean, a lot of them come like just packaged and ready to go, right? But their bone structures are a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like one here. Where is he here? This guy here, I had to strip off his rig and re-rig him Maximo because I couldn't use him.
So when you do that, do you ever have to do like specific weight painting, like in Blender or anything, or does Maximo just kind of deal with that?
No, just Maximo does it all. You just have to open the prefab, strip out the rig, delete it all in your hierarchy, and then you just take the model itself and then bring it into, or export it to FBX, like I showed you, and you can take that FBX and put it into Maximo.
Okay. Neat.
Doesn't work for all of them though. You can see my little assault mech guy here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the guy I put into the NPC mod.
Nice.
He's the first robot for the robot pack. So
cool. There's a couple of robots that I want to build that are definitely going to be unusual. So
if you look at his, let me show you here. Where is he in my finished folder? You notice he doesn't have all the other stuff that the other models require.
Okay. Is there like a custom animation controller or custom?
Yeah, it's the animal controller. It's up here.
Okay. Interesting.
It's much simpler.
All right. And as long as everything is named correctly, the animal controller will find it in the animation.
Yeah, you have to put the animations in there for these guys, for the Gen 2 ones, like the animals and robots and stuff. Whereas the animations already come with the tutorial project, graciously provided by Xyth for the humanoids.
Nice.
So you don't have to add any animations for the humanoid characters or zombies.
Mm-hmm.